Oh, to my family, I am very excited to share with you a story, a Leopold family story about dreaming. And I actually title the recording as Live Your Dream. A subtitle to that might be Do What You Love and Love What You Do. Before I get started to telling the story, um, I'd like to uh, thank Eloise, who was the motivator of me to create this film. When she had seen this picture and that, uh, my logo design behind me in the video chats that we did, she, about 6 months ago, about 7 months ago, she said to me, Grandpa David, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? And uh, Eloise, you actually choked me up with that, sweetheart, because that is the essence of uh, what I've been spending my lifetime doing. And for you to ask the question was made me feel very, very good. And so I took it upon myself to create these vignettes about dreaming. And I'm going to share different things that have happened to me and to Sam, and Jordan, and Kimberly, and Sarah, and my grandchildren, the e-girls in New York City, and Max and Ari in Columbus. So, a good place to start the story would be uh, starting with my parents. And uh, the mask that you see there is Grandma Evelyn and Grandpa Leonard hadn't seen each other for 49 years until last July. And Mom wanted to uh, wear the mask just to make sure. She didn't know if there was a mask mandate or not when she was going to be reunited with my father. And so she took the mask with her. And if I'm not mistaken, what is that jumping out of the family album? Is that the three Evelyns? One of the most wonderful moments of my life as Evelyn, at that time she was 3 years old. She was holding a picture of her great grandmother. You can't really see it too well. She was holding a picture of her great grandmother when she was three, her great grandmother Evelyn when she was three. And sitting behind in the back of the picture is Grandma Evelyn. And at that time, she was 95 years old. So it was just one of those moments where three Evelyns were in a picture, and it's something I cherish deeply. I suppose we should, and talking about what my parents had in the way of dreams for me, uh, if I had to boil it down, I would say that my mother wanted me to become a rabbi. She was sitting in the audience uh, the night it was our family, it was our congregational dinner at our temple, at our synagogue, and I was president of the youth group back then, at that time, and the president of the congregation, as he was introducing me to give my report for the youth group, he said that I want to introduce David Leopold, who will probably be the first rabbi ever to come out of this congregation. And I, I had to step back a little bit, and my mother picked up on that, and so she had hopes that I would be a rabbi someday. And in fact, that is why I picked to come to the University of Cincinnati, because down the street from Cincinnati, from the University of Cincinnati, is Hebrew Union College, uh, where I took Hebrew my freshman and sophomore years of college, but obviously did not continue on. As a side note, uh, we got some very shocking news in Cincinnati just this week that Hebrew Union College may be closing uh, as uh, an institution that trains rabbis. The buildings will stay, the library will stay, the museum will stay, but there will be probably no more rabbinic classes and training at Hebrew Union College. A sad note for the community. But moving on, my father's dream for me was uh, we didn't talk a great deal about it as I was growing up, but actually the very last face-to-face conversation I had with my father about 1 year before he died was that he wanted me to go to law school, and he told me in no uncertain terms and shocked me the way he told me that he had wanted me to go to law school. And in fact, that was probably a long lifetime dream of myself, but for myself, but circumstances as they were in my life at that time, those pieces of my life puzzle did not fit together. So we moved on to different things. That's basically the dreaming discussions that I had with my parents. Um, I don't remember too much about talking about dreams with Jordan and Sam, other than Jordan's freshman year in college. He had gone to college. Maybe it was his dream to be a graphic designer. He certainly had the talent for it. Uh, Midway through his freshman year, he called me up and said, "Dad, would you mind if I changed my major to marketing?" And he couldn't see it. It wasn't a video chat, it was a telephone chat, but he couldn't see the biggest smile on my face because he would choose a field that I've spent my entire life in. So it was just a wonderful statement for he to make to me. And as far as any discussions of dreams that I had with Sam, the only thing that I really remember is attending his graduation from Miami University, and he graduated as a junior, and it was there weren't that many folks at the graduation, but of course I went, and um, I picked up his senior paper, which was done in his junior year. I picked it up, and it was an outstanding research, scientific research paper that I did not understand one word. And so and in talking with Sam, he had said that he had attended a job fair and had a pretty significant interview session with Procter and Gamble. And he told me they made a statement to him that if he ever decided to go into research, his major was chemistry, to please give them a call. So I guess that was kind of my dream, but one step beyond uh, Procter and Gamble and a commercial uh, type job was the fact that I always knew in my heart that if Sam did go into medical research. He would develop just some outstanding research projects. I have no problem with a dream that Sam created for himself, and I'm very proud of the wonderful job. And in summary, I probably can say uh, to Grandma Evelyn that Sam has become the rabbi teacher. Rabbi means teacher, that I never became. So her dream for me to become a rabbi kind of extended to Sam because he certainly is a rabbi of the highest degree. So let's move around and look at some of the other vignettes that were created for this. And right here, this is something that Kimberly did, and she probably did not realize it at the time that she was doing it. But I've had a personal dream in my lifetime that I would like to go to Africa and study animals in their natural habitat, specifically giraffes. And Kimberly brought back for me this giraffe from Africa. She did a mission uh, journey to Africa and brought it back. This is actually before, I guess it was probably the same year or in the year or in the 12 months that she and Sam got married. But Kimberly, that's still my dream. And maybe the dream now becomes taking the family on an African safari to see giraffes. But let's deal with the giraffes. Right here is a giraffe uh, presentation that that Evelyn did for me, and she gave it to me just this last December. A beautiful rendition of a giraffe, and these three giraffes right here, one, two, and three, were giraffes that Jordan actually sketched in high school, and he used this picture that was published by the Cincinnati Zoo of uh, Zoe, who was the a baby giraffe that the zoo had to euthanize. And with Zoe is her mother, Tessa. And I also, in doing just this week, I was doing some other kinds of work, and I found a picture, Eloise, right there of um, the when you were well, probably 6, 7 months old, and I was holding you, and I introduced you to uh, to Kimba, and Kimba was the father of many of the giraffes at the Cincinnati Zoo, and Tessa was uh, his mate on a couple of the babies, but um, also too there were other mothers to other giraffes in the zoo that Kimba got involved in. So it's I love giraffes, and I have certainly shared that dream with my children and grandchildren. Uh, back to in the back, this was a painting. These two were paintings that were done for me by a landlord of mine uh, 10 years ago, probably 10 years ago. She overnight actually created those. We talked a little bit, and they have become my logo for Dreaming with Entrepreneurs. Let's, okay, and then the yacht there is a dream of mine that someday I would like to have a a cruise uh, to anywhere, maybe Bermuda, because I would love to cruise to Bermuda, and that cruise would be an entrepreneur's cruise that uh, small business owners and entrepreneurs would be invited to participate in that cruise activity. That definitely is a dream of mine, and that's why we have that picture of, of the big fancy yacht there. The name itself. Let's talk about it for a moment. Dreaming with entrepreneurs. Uh, I this was probably back in 2010, maybe 2000. It had to be 2010 that uh, I was. I had been doing a lot of things in the uh, entrepreneurial world, but I had not adopted the name Dreaming with Entrepreneurs. That came about one Monday night after I had watched a favorite show of mine back then was Dancing with the Stars, and I woke up in the middle of the night, or maybe it was the beginning of my day, I don't remember, but it came to me as an epiphany that I should have uh, a company called Dreaming with Entrepreneurs. And the purpose of Dreaming with Entrepreneurs, one of the things would be to produce a television show called Dreaming with Entrepreneurs. So, to that end, um, after I created the LLC, I had an attorney do a very expensive, um, they call it a service trademark, a service mark, uh, because I wanted protection to the name Dreaming with Entrepreneurs in the case that I actually did move forward and produce a television show. But the interesting thing is, uh, as you know, I don't I have produced television shows, and I did produce it under the name Dreaming with Entrepreneurs, but it never it didn't. It actually, it was a 3 year. It was a 3 year, a little over 2 years. A little over 2 years. Um, I produced a show in public access television here in Cincinnati called Dreaming of Entrepreneurs. It was a Saturday morning show, and I produced 65 shows for public access television. And I see the DVDs uh, for the show sitting over there, all 65 of them. It was a wonderful experience. But today, with the internet and its strength and its reach, it has just made more sense for me to do what I have always dreamed of doing. Do it in cyberspace as opposed to television. Okay, so let's move on. We see that giraffe looking and watching the story uh, behind. I guess that would kind of be the logo of our family. The story behind it, Jordan, Sam, and I were at the San Diego Zoo. Uh, Jordan was probably 9, Sam was probably 8, and as we entered the zoo, there was an artist there, and we told her our name, obviously, and she created uh, that beautiful piece of art. Those are all animals intertwined within the letters of our name, and she produced that while we were in the zoo, and as we were ready to go home, we took it with us. It was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. One of those uh, time and place happenings. I see over there is a collection and those are dreams of mine. Uh, in those three pictures, in this picture, I spent 3 days with Michael Gerber in a program that he called in the dreaming room. It was his dreaming room. That was actually the name of his program. It was out in near San Diego, a little north of San Diego, where he lived. But we spent 3 days with him, and it was a wonderful experience. Uh, Michael, Brian Tracy are the uh, probably the two most prolific writers uh, of business and entrepreneurship. And of course, those are my themes. So those two individuals have always been mentors of mine. They didn't know it until we actually met, that they were mentors. And that picture that I have with Brian there, that is his copy of that picture that I kept for myself. I reproduced one for him and presented it to him. What a great thrill to present my mentor with something, sharing my appreciation of all the knowledge that he has given me. Uh, Back to Michael Gerber for a second. I was able, because of the relationship I established with Michael, that not too long after that event, he came out with the 25th anniversary edition of his original book, which was called the Entrepreneur Myth, and uh, he has become. He's written about 25 books with that general theme, and it was just a wonderful 3 days that I was able to spend with them. And finally, this picture was just once again a happening time and place type of thing. Sam and I were on our way to lunch in New York City. We were going to the eatery, which um, was established. Uh, it was on the site of the 9/11, the World Trade Center from 9/11. It's in the reconstruction. They built a beautiful, beautiful retail area, a tower, offices, what have you. But Sam and I went to lunch that one day, and lo and behold, at the top of the escalator, just as we got off, there was a she was sitting there, uh, and we were able to. Um, uh, Lydia was standing there, and she had been there for 2 hours signing books. We were there at the very tail end as she was getting ready to shut down, and I was able to spend about 20, 25 minutes with her, and we actually had Lydia is a famous chef. She has a half a dozen restaurants uh, with her children. Her son has a couple, and her daughter has a couple that they're partners in. Uh, but she's also built up a huge empire. And she was on uh, public television for her cooking show. She still is. Still is. I still watch her. But she is a little known thing about her. A One of the most outstanding entrepreneurs that I've ever met in my life. She has built over $1 billion empire, leaving Italy at a very early age. She was, I think, maybe in her teens, maybe a little earlier. Came to the United States and has built $1 billion empire, $1 billion plus empire, and it was just a wonderful experience. And this, we spent most of the time. She was talking about her Italian mother, who she has on her television shows. I think her mother might have passed away, uh, but if not, her mother and my mother were the same age. and uh, we shared experiences with her Italian mother and my Jewish mother. And uh, Lydia looked at me and she said, "David, they are one and the same. A Jewish mother and Italian mother are one and the same." So it was a fun experience and another dream type experience for me. Uh, then there's a beautiful story that goes with this doll and that soccer ball and the certificate behind. Uh, about 4 years ago, I had been teaching an exercise class at the YMCA up the street, and I rode my bike to the class. When I came downstairs, and I tied my bike up real close to the front door of the Y. There was an area there, and when I came down, that doll was sitting on my bike. I have no idea how it got there. To this day, I still don't know how it got there, but obviously it was somebody who knew me because I was mentioning that I was going to New York to see my granddaughters, and somebody, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, probably a woman, put the doll on my bike knowing I was going to go to New York. Well, the doll has not made it to New York yet. Who knows where it'll end up someday? And then in the last year, I was walking down the main street. Well, where I live, it is actually the main east-west street in our little community where I live. And right near my front porch, there was somebody had put that ball there. I have to assume they knew that I had grandsons and they put the ball there for that purpose. So how wonderful it is to have things that just came to me. Uh, I have no idea how they got there, but they are so symbolic of very important dreams that I've had in my lifetime. Uh, and behind is a certificate. It says first game certificate, Ohio State. 5 or 6 weeks ago today, I was in Columbus and attended my first Ohio State basketball game with my grandsons, who are not yet 3, not yet 2. They were attending their first Ohio State basketball game, and what a beautiful thing to for all of us to be attending the first game together. And I was able to find uh, somebody who gave us certificates, gave each one of us a certificate for attending our first game. How beautiful that was. Then this is a picture, two pictures. That's unbelievable how they came about. Uh, in August last year, this picture was taken in New York with my three granddaughters, uh, Eloise, Evelyn, and Emery. That's why I call them the E-girls. And Sam is in the picture also. Uh, we went to an Italian restaurant in their neighborhood in New York City in the Upper West Side, and Sam, well, the girls and Sam had been there before. I had been there once or twice before, and it was a place where Italian is spoken. So, actually, Evelyn was born in Italy, but left when she was around 3 or 4 months old. Eloise lived in Italy, uh, and they had a chance to speak Italian while we were in the restaurant. So that was also fun. In July, actually 6 weeks before that picture was taken, I took that picture of my grandsons, Max and Ari. We were celebrating Max's second birthday in that picture, and so the thrilling thing about it was I took each one of those pictures in a 6 week period in their in their in their homes where they live in New York City and Columbus. So that was real fine. And I have saved the last vignette because it is something that actually started about 10 years ago, uh, before any of my grandchildren were born. Uh, I had answered an ad, and I don't remember where I actually read it. It had to be something local neighborhood that four horses, one, two, three, four, were available free to a good home. And I immediately connected and promised them a good home because therein was something that I might be able to give my grandchildren someday. So Eloise is the oldest, largest, and in terms of dreaming, she's leading the pack and looking out and trying to understand what the dream might be and in which direction should they go. And Evelyn is by her side, but Evelyn, out of the corner of her eye, is looking at the five ducks. She wants to make sure that they're okay. Those five ducks are also symbolic of my grandchildren. I was at a restaurant in downtown Cincinnati, and they gave out rubber ducks are a big thing in Cincinnati. They are symbolic at on Labor Day, a big event. And this restaurant, when you are done, gives you brings a basket of ducks to the table and says, "Please take one home with you as a souvenir of your experience." And I looked at uh, the uh, the woman who was taking care of us, and I said, "Would you mind if I took five ducks because I have five grandchildren, and I will pick uh, five uh, different ones, and it will remind me of each one of them, and that's the five ducks." So we have Eloise and Evelyn, and that is Emery. She's in between her two sisters, uh, looking out, wondering where her life journey may take her, what dreams she might have. And there's Max, uh, and there is Ari. Now, Ari, once again, another special story. I only got four horses, and I have five grandchildren. And I had been looking the entire time for the last um, almost 2 years for a fifth horse. And in the trip when I went to New York in August, uh, the girls and Sam and I went to a neighborhood boutique toy store in their neighborhood, and we had to walk down some steps. It wasn't a very big store, but it was probably the nicest toy store that I've ever been in because they were all specially handled, specially selected toys to sell to distribute. And the very first thing that I saw when I walked into that store was a display of animals, and my eye immediately went to a horse, and I said, "There's Ari." Now, if you notice, Ari is looking at two diaries. One is for him, and one is for Max. I also, and they will keep their journals, and they will keep, well, whatever they want to put in their own journals, but maybe it will be an opportunity for them to record their dreams, to record their thoughts, and just continue to do this and share with one another what the stories are all about. Uh, in December, I gave the e-girls their diaries. So the next visit I have to Columbus, Max and Ari, you will get yours. I would like to end this story with a message to my grandchildren, because that's what motivated me to create what we have done, what I did. And it's, well, inscribed on the journals were messages. There were three of them to my granddaughters, two of them to my grandsons. And here's what they say: I want you to believe deep in your heart that you're capable of achieving anything you put your mind to, that you will never lose. You either win or learn. Just go forth and aim for the skies. I can't promise to be here for the rest of your life, but I can promise to love you for the rest of mine.